everyone, this is Mrs. Shortle, and I am here to help you to figure out how to read the textbook. Obviously, you already know how to read, but it can be difficult to distinguish between the main ideas and unnecessary details. So my hope is that with this tutorial, you are better able to do that on your own. So let's get started. First of all, when you open up the textbook, you should also open up the study guides that I make available to you, because these study guides will help you to determine what the important terms are that you need to know, as well as what the major objectives are that you should be looking for as you read. Okay. There are many people and terms that you may find in the textbook that you think are important, but do not appear on the study guide. If that is the case, then you don't need to know them. With my many years of experience of studying and teaching AP European history, I have sifted through the material and decided, you can't know everything, and so this is the really important stuff, so you can let some things go. Okay. All right, so here we are on the first page of the chapter. Typically this page is an introduction to the chapter, and there is nothing that I highlight. In this particular chapter, I did elect to highlight the key terms for my study guide, which are the Renaissance and Giorgio Vasari here. Okay. I also elected to highlight what these terms mean, since you should always be doing that when you highlight a key term. So the Renaissance literally means rebirth. And I also highlighted that the word was first used by artist historian Giorgio Vasari to describe the art of rare men of genius. Finally, I also highlighted the glory of the classical past had been reborn, since is a defining feature of the Renaissance. And that's it. Do not be alarmed if you don't highlight anything on this page. Anything that is really important from this page is going to appear again later in the text. Finally, these introductory pages sometimes do offer interesting questions to us, and so that is what I noted down here with my annotation. I picked up on this question of whether or not the Renaissance is an accurate term to describe this particular period of a time. And I noted this word debate here. So I am always looking for good debate questions for us to discuss in class. They make good oral debates, they make great essay questions, and they also remind us that history is a construct that is meant to be debated, and it is not a set of just objective truths. So anytime you see something that raises a question like this, I would make a note of it. The second page of every chapter will look like this, which is a nice overview of the topics that will be covered, as well as questions that will help guide your thinking. So you don't need to spend much time on this page. I'm sure you will enjoy skipping over the pictures, but I would take a quick glance when you open the chapter at the topics, and especially at these questions, which often relate to the objectives on my study guides. All right, now we get to the meat of the chapter, a page with a whole lot of words that you have to sift through. So here we go. First of all, when I read the textbook, I would scan through this page. I'd actually scan through maybe 2 or 3 pages, or at the very least, I'd get through this opening section here and then this first section, so that I have an idea of what the reading will be about before I really dive in and read it more closely. Okay. Secondly, as I do that reading, I would be looking for those key terms so that I can take care of them at first. And the key terms in these opening sections are the Renaissance and patronage. It's nice, the textbook puts them in bold, and I agree that what the authors selected is in fact important. Okay, so for this opening section and then the trade and prosperity section, those are the only 2 key terms that appear on the study guide. All right, so let's take a look at this opening section here. I already know what the Renaissance is, so I didn't feel the need to highlight anything again, though if you wanted to, you could certainly highlight the definition over here, and in fact that does add a little bit to the understanding that we gained from the very first page of the chapter. You understand what the dates are for the Renaissance, and that this is a rebirth of classical antiquity, and specifically founded in Italy. So that is important. Okay. Now, I noted here that economic growth was a key cause of the Italian Renaissance, so I highlighted that, and then I highlighted a little bit more to help make sense of that. We see that merchants gain political power to match their economic power, and that helps us to understand later how it was that merchants came to govern a lot of the Italian city-states. Also, it shows us that with their economic power, they were able to patronize art, and that is a huge reason why there was such a flourishing of art at this point in time. Okay. Note that I leave out even words, little words like they, then. I try to limit what I have to look at later on when I am studying. So I'm very, very careful in my selections here. All right, so next section is trade and prosperity. All right, having already scanned through it, I have decided that it is important that northern Italian city-states led the way. Okay, so this situates us in place. We know that the Renaissance began in northern Italy. Now, the rest of this paragraph talks about specific city-states, and what we see here are, we've got Venice mentioned. We have Genoa and Milan. Okay, I underlined these because I wanted to take note of some key place names, but I did not highlight them in pink because they're not key terms on my study guide, and I actually decided not to put them on the study guide because I think that they are specific details, where in a survey course of European history, to know exactly what happened in Genoa and Milan and Venice is unimportant. And we also see here that they only get a sentence or maybe even half a sentence each, so that shows us that the authors of the textbook also don't find them to be very, very important. Okay, I did happen to note that they made strides in shipbuilding, because I thought that related to this idea that it helps us to understand why it was that the northern Italian cities were where the Renaissance was founded, and it has to do with their commercial leadership. And part of that is that these city-states built good ships, and that allowed them to be commercial hubs. Now, the next paragraph, in the next paragraph, I did highlight more. I highlighted in yellow the city where the Renaissance began and Florence. I happened to box Florence because I didn't put it down as a key term, so it's not in pink, and I underlined the other city-states, and this one seems a little bit more significant. It's where the Renaissance began, so I wanted to highlight that for myself. And then I wanted to explain, or I thought it was important to note, why Florence became the hub of the Renaissance, or was where the Renaissance began. So I highlighted, oops, that didn't work. All right, I highlighted favorable location on the main road. I could have highlighted northward from Rome, but really I'm trying to limit what I have to take a look at later. And I noted that it was a commercial hub. Okay, so trade is a key reason, or the key reason, why the Renaissance began in Italy. And then if I really wanted to, should I highlight the types of goods that came through Florence, grain, cloth, wool, weapons, armor, spices, glass, and wine? Maybe, but really I find those to be extra details, and the key point is that Florence was a commercial hub. Okay. My goal when I am reading is to highlight very thoughtfully and not highlight everything. Even if there are things that may also be somewhat important, I am trying to make my eye, when I go back and read the chapter later, find the really key points. And so highlighting in a limited fashion helps me to do that. All right, so on to the next paragraph. We've got the Florentine merchants also loaned and invested money. So we're understanding that not only did they sell goods, but they also participated in banking. And they were significant in that they controlled papal banking, and the papacy was very, very powerful in Europe at this point in time. Okay, and then I also noted that they began to dominate European banking, because that helps me to understand just how significant that particular industry was for them. All right, as we keep reading here, I did not highlight anything in the rest of that paragraph because I felt that it was all simply helping me to understand the significance of banking, and I think I understand that intuitively, and so I didn't feel the need to alert myself to other information in here. With this next paragraph, let me show you where I'm looking right now. We're taking a look here. I also didn't highlight anything. There are some great specifics in here. We've got King Edward III of England. We've got the influence of the Black Death. We've got some guy named Benedetto Dei. But this is all, again, very detailed information. And it's all seeking to show us or to illustrate the claim, the topic sentence here, which is that Florence was so strong by the 14th century that nothing could destroy it. And I feel like I didn't really need to highlight that. Now, maybe you think that that is important. If that's the case, then go ahead and just highlight that first sentence, but I don't think that you need all of the details that come after it. Okay? So this is really kind of up to you here. Next, the next item here is this text box, this great little primary source. Typically these primary sources help to add color and show you the real stuff of history, as opposed to something that a bunch of professors are writing, hundreds of years later. And typically I don't highlight anything in them. Okay, they just help to illustrate some of the other key ideas. Okay, so I've just skipped a huge amount of information because let's keep in mind that I didn't highlight any of, oops, it's not disappearing. All right, I didn't highlight anything in the previous paragraph. So we get to the last paragraph here, and here's what I highlighted. In Florence and other thriving Italian cities, I just highlighted wealth allowed many people greater material pleasures, a more comfortable life, and leisure time to appreciate and patronize the arts. And that's it. That helps me to understand why commercial prosperity was so important in creating a new period of art. So that shows you some of my thinking for this first section. If you would like to see my thinking for the two sections that follow, take a look at the document that I posted online. Goodbye and good luck.